Hey guys, Bryan here from Liquid Concepts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about plastics and how to prep them, and just one of the ways that we might use here in the shop to prep out plastic parts. Now, what I've got in front of me is of course just a regular speed shape. Now, these are made out of ABS, so technically we normally just paint directly over them, but let's say that maybe this is a different type of plastic. So how would you go about prepping this out? Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that, and I'm just going to run through a couple of the different methods. So one of the methods is of course using a Scotch-Brite pad like this to get a little bit of a scuff all the way around. So as you can tell by doing something like this, we can get a nice little scuff on the plastic itself. Now, this is probably not the best way of doing that, but it does help with the adhesion from the adhesion promoter or the paint or anything like that that you're putting on that to go onto the plastic part. Now, there are other ways to get a better adhesion, and so another way that we use is our blast cabinet. So a lot of the times, even though it's plastic, we will actually throw it into the blast cabinet. So the blast cabinet does help etch a lot of this surface a lot better, so therefore we get a better adhesion between the plastic and of course the coating that we're putting on. So in this case, let's go ahead, let's throw this in the blaster and show you guys what the end result is after it's being blasted. So now, as you can see, we've got everything all blasted, and the biggest thing is now is that of course we have tons of dust all still on there. Now, if this was a customer's part, you would definitely want to make sure that you have gloves on before you're touching any of this area. But because we're just doing this just for show, we're just going to handle it like this, but definitely make sure that you always have gloves on after you've blasted anything like that. But the other thing to remember is that you can clearly see that we have a very uniform coverage of blasting all the way around the entire part. So let's go ahead and get this blown off and show you guys what it looks like. All right, so now that we've got this all blasted, now we're ready to go with our adhesion promoter. Now again, there is multiple different ways of prepping out the plastics. This is just one of the ways. Of course, as you guys probably know, there's also flame treating. There's also cleaning it with a wax and grease remover and a lot of other methods like that, including the Scotch-Brite pad. They also do make some other actual like pastes that you can put on that and scuff it, and it does help the adhesion as well. So there's also a lot of other ways to prep this, but in this case, you can clearly see we've got a really good etched surface all the way around. Now it is still smooth because we did blast it at a lower PSI, but that's exactly what we want. So now that we've got everything blown off, now that everything is ready to go, let's go ahead, throw it in the paint booth, get a coat of the adhesion promoter on it, and then of course we can go through and start the process with our primer, our base coat, our dip, and then our clear coat after that. All right, so now that we've got it all blasted, already blown off, we've got fresh new paper down, now we can go ahead and start spraying the adhesion promoter. So of course we've got our Liquid Concepts adhesion promoter, the APL1. We'll have a link in the description below, so that way you can check it out if you're interested in it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to spray the adhesion promoter over the top of everything. Now this is going to be a quick drying process, so once we spray it on, we want a full wet coat. Once we got that wet coat, then we can move on with either our primer or our base coat or whatever we need to spray over the top of it. But having the adhesion promoter does help with almost creating like a liquid glue that it helps adhere to the plastic, as well as it allows for whatever coating that you're about to put over it to adhere to that. So let's go ahead and pour a little bit of this in here. Now this is a 1K component, which means that whatever you don't use out of this, you can pour it directly back into here because there is no hardener or activator that needs to be applied. This is a ready to spray adhesion promoter that we have. So we can pour out. You'll also notice too, it is clear, which is perfectly fine because whenever we go to paint it, it's going to look the same, but we will have the adhesion promoter over it, which will help in making sure that everything is sticking properly. So let's go ahead and get this ready to spray. Put the cap on it, put the lid on it, get it hooked up to the gun, we'll go grab a mask and we'll go ahead and get this sprayed. So now that we've got everything all sprayed with the adhesion promoter, of course, as you can tell, we laid on a good wet coat, and then now it is already dried within just a few minutes. So this stuff does dry very quickly, which is great, because then once it's dry and it's flashed off, normally within 3 to 5 minutes or so, depending on shop conditions, now you're ready to go over it with either your base coat or your primer or whatever coating that you need to apply over it. And so this will definitely help in making sure that the coating that you're applying onto the plastic part is going to help be stronger and a lot more durable, because the coating itself, it now has the adhesion promoter to help it to adhere to the plastic a lot better than if you was just to scuff it and base coat it or scuff it and prime it alone. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them below. We'd always love to hear from you on anything hydrographics related. Also, if you haven't already, definitely hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you subscribe to our weekly tips and tricks on anything hydrographics related. I'm Bryan from Liquid Concepts, and this is how we customize your world. We'll see you guys next time.